I will endeavour to keep to time. Thank you for that presentation. That was awesome. I was worried about how I would cover a lot of the content that I wanted to, but you've done most of it, so I have a substantially easier job. So my name is Lauren Ward. I am a technology lead at the Royal National Institute for Deaf People. That is a UK charity for those of you who are from overseas. And this piece of work has 3 names there, but it is a substantial collaboration between a huge amount of people. I'm a hearing engineer. I've worked in various parts of engineering and now the charity sector. My colleague, Michael Quinlan, over here, is a deaf signer, and my other colleague over there is Francesca, who is a coder. I was already going to mention our positionality before Abraham mentioned it, just for the record. And I'm going to try not to walk all over the place. So this piece of work, or this proposed piece of work that I'm going to talk about, is hopefully bridging some of the gaps in some parts of that arc that Abraham just talked about how we can do working with communities better, how we can build capacity, how we can work in a way that isn't extractive, that's actually building and creating something that's better for everyone that's involved. So I had already, Abraham's already really covered some of the challenges of doing this well at the moment. And one of the big ones is around the availability of information for people who are AI curious in sign language communities. And that's obviously even more profound for those that are not signers from majority sign languages like BSL and ASL. And also we know that we don't have that, to Rich's question, that deaf leadership and expertise isn't going to necessarily happen in the numbers that we need it tomorrow or next week or in 5 years. So how do we have these deep and hard conversations about ethics, about trust, about accountability, when we haven't got a full range of deaf leadership to do that right now? And one of the methodologies, and something that we've been planning for, the last 13 months or so, is something called deliberative dialogue. And this is a mechanism of conversation-led research where it's not just about going to a community or going to an individual and saying, this product, do you like it? Or asking them just to do user testing or even a focus group for an hour. It's about a sustained engagement that involves first stakeholders and the community coming together to learn about the topic. So in that first instance, it's about how do we get that literacy up to a point in terms of AI for this particular project where we can have those difficult discussions about ethics. And the model that we're particularly using, called ScienceWise, is connected to people who can actually implement that change. Because one of the problems with sort of extractive allyship is one of the names for it, that sort of working with users in only a one-off extractive kind of way, is that there's no agency. And by connecting them up with people who can actually make change, by which I mean things like government departments, the disability unit, the cross-government language, cross-government committee on AI in language translation, I think I got that right. Things like that, which we're connected with through this project, means that individuals involved do actually have the ability to influence policy, to make changes. So we've been working on this for 12, 13 months, and we're at a point where we're about to start, we're going to kick off this early stages of next year. What AI literacy tools, are out there, have worked for other groups of people, and how do we get people involved in thinking not just about the technology that's out there right now, but what that might look like in the future? Because as Abraham alluded to, and I think one of the participants in his group raised it as a question, is that autonomy and agency over what should technology look like. In that ideation stage, is there deaf people involved, or is the idea already set from the outset? So, I'll skip over the AI literacy slide, but what I'll jump to is we came with this question: what AI literacy tools can we develop? and how can we think about the future better. And we, another long title, we posed this to some wonderful students, one of whom is in the room, at the Centre for Doctoral Training in AI for Digital Media Inclusion, the big one up the top. You need a shorter title. And basically they do 2-week design sprints in November and then do some bigger challenges later in the year. And they ask external organisations to set these challenges. This is a collaboration between University of Surrey, so most people in this room already know it, and Royal Holloway University and their Story Futures group. So us, along with one of our collaborators on the ScienceWise project, the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, set this challenge for the students. Go out, and now these are students that are not necessarily have any experience with the deaf community, but they bring expertise around AI, around building literacy strategies, building imaginative future strategies. And they, basically what we ask them to do is to find out what's out there. We'll do the testing, we'll take it back to the community and evaluate what works and what doesn't. They'll find out what's worked for, say, communities that have something in common, another linguistic minority, or another group that's got some common characteristic that work has been done with. You're not supposed to be able to read all of this slide. This is just to prove the sheer volume of work that you can get 6 PhD students to do in 2 weeks if you ask them nicely. Which is to say they've assembled a huge amount of resources for us to build these strategies on. And basically the point of my presentation, other than talking about our deliberative dialogue work, is to give you some ideas that hopefully get you thinking about how you can do some of these interactions with the community better. The first of which is it's really easy to fall into the idea that you need to be an AI expert, or you need to have people who are AI experts to really navigate some of those difficult questions. And one of the frameworks that came out of this piece of research was these levels of AI engagement. And they go from recognition, so that's just recognizing that something is AI, knowing and understanding, so that's understanding foundational AI concepts, using and applying, that one explains itself, evaluating, so being able to critique the outputs of an AI, and for the piece of work that we're doing, the most important one being navigate ethically, so thinking about what societal implications this tool or this piece of technology has. And so the important thing about these levels is we want to get people to that navigate ethically, and they might be coming in at any point. There might be someone in this room who already knows loads about AI, or they might be someone who literally has no AI knowledge. So how do we manage that? And the way to do, or the way it's been proposed, and we'll test and hopefully it works, is different tracks through this. So we've got a rubric, I guess, framework for setting the objectives of an AI literacy workshop. And you can take different paths through this. They might be foundational, they might be through a more intermediate, or might be through a proficient track. And so everyone, importantly, gets to this highest level of engagement, which is at the bottom of the slide. But the way that they get there and the types of objectives for the workshop are different. So for someone on the foundational level, it might be that I can recognise what bias in data is and what that might mean. For someone on the proficient track, that might be I understand how I can assess the accountability and the safeguards of an AI system. So they're both getting to that navigate ethically point, but they're very different framings. And importantly, this proficiency track gives us a tool for delivery as well, which is that no engagement or outreach or anything like that is going to be sustainable if it relies on specific facilitators being available to do it all the time. The key is to build capacity in the community. And this proficient track will work towards a sort of AI champion model. Most people are probably familiar with the idea of sort of accessibility champions or digital champions. The model's the same. So from these workshops, we can build individuals who are confident to go out and run more workshops, to be a part of the community that people know has some confidence with AI. And the final point that I hopefully have some time for is this idea of integrating into these literacy workshops futuring. So not just what is the technology today, what do we think of the technology today, but giving people the agency and the space to imagine what the future should look like. Now, futuring or design fictions or speculative design fictions, they're all fancy terms for, actually the best explanation is Black Mirror is basically a speculative design fiction. It's not a very optimistic one. You can definitely do more optimistic versions of this, but it's looking to the future and not just thinking about it or discussing it, it's creating something. So in the Black Mirror example, they're creating short films or TV shows. In the one paper that has done something like this within the deaf community, they did drawings and illustrations of their ideas. And it's giving the space to not only just say, oh, it'd be really good if tech could do this or that. It's exploring what the implications of that might be. What might that look like? And that's a really powerful way to surface what people value, what people's hopes or fears are around technology, and sort of reinforce that the future's not set in stone, which is really easy with sort of the dystopian ideas of AI, to think that it's set in stone and individuals can't do much to change it. So that's been an absolute whistle-stop tour through a huge amount of work. And hopefully that gives you just a bit to think about, a different lens on how we might engage with the community, with AI literacy, with how we design technology, and not just for those who are sign language users, just in general as technology professionals. I have a huge list of thank yous. These are the amazing students, one of whom is presently getting out her phone to take a photo of the slide, which is great. As I mentioned, we worked with the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association. The ScienceWise project at large is working with a huge number of deaf sector associations and other organisations, too many to list at this given point in time, but these particular individuals were involved in this 2-week stint. Helen O'Neill is some sort of magician who managed to get this project to happen over the last 2 weeks of November. And yeah, I think I've exhausted my time on the stage, so I will hand over the microphone.
Maybe we can have one very quick question.
I can just shout. How do more people get involved with your project?
Thank you, because I meant to mention that. First of all, I pointed out the three of us, come find us. Second of all, there is a QR code on our poster outside. You can take that. Or if you, worst case scenario, and only remember the letters R and ID, go to our website. There is a contact us button that will eventually end up in the right place.
We thank Lauren again